Proud to say I am joined by the governor of the great state of Texas, Greg Abbott, who happens to be the author of a great new book, Broken But Unbowed, The Fight to Fix a Broken America. Governor, thank you so much.
Great to be back with you.
Yeah,
thank
great
you so
to
much.
see you again. All right, let me start. Before we get to the book, and we got plenty to talk about your amazing life story and the book itself, but let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, presidential race. You were a Cruz guy.
Right.
Are you now all in for Donald Trump?
Well, here's the deal. First, so you can understand, Ted and I are personal friends. Ted worked for me when I was the Attorney General of Texas. Ted was my Solicitor General. I know Ted. I know his principles. I know his convictions. I know where he stands on the United States Constitution. I know the kinds of people he would appoint to the United States Supreme Court, which is incredibly important to the future of America. And so it's tough, suddenly changing course when you're so dedicated to one particular candidate. But this is easy because it's either Trump or Hillary. And I know the complete disaster Hillary Clinton would be for the United States of America. She must be defeated. Otherwise, America is in grave danger.
So when you say it's easy, it's Trump.
Sure.
Okay. You think Cruz will come out and you know him? I know he may not have told you, but do you think, since you know him?
To be honest, on that issue, I have no idea. And that's up to him. That's his choice. He went through the grinder with it, and sometimes it's more challenging for a candidate who goes through that process to be able to come out and make an endorsement. We'll see.
Are you surprised that Paul Ryan is playing this game, in my view? Well, we've got a little far. We're not far enough. I like him, but we're not there. I mean, is that his role?
Listen, you cannot use the words and the sentence together. I'm surprised about anything this campaign cycle. No one can predict what was going to happen this campaign cycle.
Right, fair enough. All right. Your lieutenant governor has been all over the media recently in response to the transgender bathroom order, the most recent one being that all schools all over the country had better open up their bathrooms to anybody who wants them, no matter what sex, or lose the implication federal funding. And here's some of what your lieutenant governor had to say.
He says he's going to withhold funding if schools do not follow the policy. Well, in Texas, he can keep his 30 pieces of silver. We will not yield to blackmail from the President of the United States.
Obviously, you agree.
Sure. And in fact, interestingly, that's precisely the issue I talk about in that book, Broken But Unbowed. It deals with this president and what he's done repeatedly about trampling the United States Constitution. The president does not have the authority to make these kinds of policies. That authority is given to the United States Congress. And what the president has done, he's rewritten the Constitution by himself writing laws and trying to impose laws and the rule of law in America. America was created as a country that tried to get away from the rule of men, the rule of kings. We have now come full circle, and we're now being ruled by someone who has self-categorized himself as a king.
And would this, if this were to go to fruition, if they cut off your federal funding, would it affect the school free lunch and breakfast programs?
That's the irony of it, and that is the funding that would be hurt the most is the funding for the people that Barack Obama wants to most support. But listen, it's not going to go there, and here's why. And that's because Congress did write the Civil Rights Act and Title IX, and this transgender issue is found nowhere in there. And so I feel very confident we are going to prevail in the legal system.
So he's in violation of Title IX by linking it.
Yeah, what he's in violation of is separation of powers by assuming the authority to rewrite the laws that Congress themselves wrote. Remember this also. Congress voted on this issue. Congress brought up the issue about whether or not to include transgender in the category of what is protected under the Civil Rights Act and Title IX, and they rejected the idea. So Barack Obama is trying to rewrite what Congress has already rejected.
Broken but unbowed. You talk about the system. You could also talk, if I may, about you, about your experience.
Sure.
And not a lot of people know this. So you had an unfortunate accident when you were young, and a tree fell on you, and you're in a wheelchair. And not too many politicians, high-profile politicians, are in wheelchairs. Franklin Roosevelt was in a wheelchair. A lot of people thought it influenced his politics. It made him more compassionate. How has being in your position at all, if at all, influenced or affected your political, your politics?
It's made me a stronger person. First, so people can know the story. When I was 26 years old, I was out jogging and a big tree fell and crashed down onto my back, fracturing my vertebrae and my spinal cord, leaving me forever paralyzed and needing to use a wheelchair. Since that time, it was after that I became a judge, a Supreme Court justice, attorney general, and now governor. But it shows that through hard work, anybody can achieve anything. But it shows something else, and I say this to reach everybody in your audience, and that is our lives aren't defined by how we're challenged. Instead, our lives are defined by how we respond to the challenges we face. And so I use that in this book to talk about the challenges that America faces. And from our very beginnings, from the time of George Washington until today, America has been a nation that has responded to challenges of the most profound type. We need to respond today to restore our Constitution, to restore the greatness that America has always represented.
What about your faith? How is your faith? You've always had an extremely positive outlook in response to the tragedy. How has your Christian faith not only enabled you to overcome your tragedy, but enabled you to go on to become the governor of one of the most important states in the Union?
Well, my faith has been an essential component of it. I was born the grandson of a pastor, and so faith has been a part of my life ever since I was born. However, after my accident, it really brought me closer to God. And it's kind of ironic to say, and some people have a hard time believing, that my relationship with God is stronger after my accident than it was before.
The veterans, you've been very outspoken in support of our veterans and our military, and the profits of the book go to an organization that helps veterans, correct? So talk about that, and what can the government do to fix this crisis in helping veterans find homes and jobs?
Right. Very important, and that is, as governor, I can't take income from any other source. I get nothing from this book. The proceeds of the book are going to what's called Operation Finally Home for our veterans. It provides a home mortgage-free to those who've served, who've been injured, those who need it the most. And think about this. Think about the title of Operation Finally Home. They have fought for us in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they finally come home to see our country fraying its freedom that they fought for. That's why we, all of us Americans, need to go fight for our veterans, to fight for the freedom that they put their lives on the line for us.
Where is the secession movement in the state of Texas? How serious is it? And what could eventually happen with that? Anything of significance?
Here's the deal. We just finished our state Republican Party convention. It was an issue at the convention, but it didn't pass. And I'll tell you why. And that's because we know that Texas has to be the dynamic leader from a policy standpoint in the United States, but it goes to the heart of what this book is about. What this book is about is the way that we empower citizens to restore and return America to its constitutional principles. Americans wouldn't be frustrated like they are today if the United States was following the Constitution. But because Barack Obama has repeatedly violated the Constitution, and because the United States Supreme Court has rewritten the Constitution, this book provides a pathway forward for the average, everyday citizen so we can together take back America.
But the state of Texas will remain as part of the United States for the foreseeable decades and centuries to come?
The state of Texas is going to lead the way. You know, some people talk about secession. I believe in annexation. We may just grow and expand the Texas brand of freedom across the country.
Governor, God bless you. Thank you so much. The book, folks, is very important. It's a great book. Broken But Unbowed, The Fight to Fix a Broken America, by just a wonderful man, a wonderful story, and a great governor. And I predict one day a candidate for President of the United States. I have nothing to base that on. It's just my opinion. It's called, of course, Broken But Unbowed, The Fight to Fix a Broken America.